Kanye West, what he did was pretty amazing yesterday.
All right, President Trump praising musician Kanye West a day after that very memorable Oval Office meeting.
Trump is on his hero's journey right now, and he might not have expected to have a crazy like Kanye West run up and support, but best believe we are going to make America great.
Well, West wasn't the only music superstar to plunge into the political arena this week. Taylor Swift made her first public endorsements to Democrats in her home state of Tennessee with this Instagram post urging fans to vote in November's midterms. She repeated that call to action on Tuesday.
This award and every single award given out tonight were voted on by the people, and you know what else is voted on by the people? Is the midterm elections on November 6th. Get out and vote. I love you guys.
All right, joining me now, Newton-Small, back with me, Time Magazine contributor, and also Rochelle Richie, political commentator and former press secretary for House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. To both of you, let's jump into it, starting with Jay. Of course, it's not the first time we've heard of musicians, entertainers, and celebrities wading into politics, but what a very different approach, really. One side Kanye, the other side Taylor Swift. It reminds me kind of how different it was with the riff. Remember when Kanye took the stage for the VMA, and now we have them on opposite ends when it comes to this.
It is, and it's so striking, Francis. I remember 10 years ago covering the Obama campaign, and John McCain sort of accusing Barack Obama of being a celebrity, sort of like Paris Hilton, and everyone being like, ooh, that's such a burn, like being a celebrity, there's nothing worse in politics. It's sort of considered, so outside of politics at that point. And here we are 10 years later, we're in the midst of this sort of reality TV presidency, and celebrities are everywhere. I mean, I remember campaigning with John Edwards and going into a John Cougar Mellencamp concert, and the whole concert started booing because they were like, well, you should not mix music and politics at the same time. And so it's really striking how much you see music, celebrity, really becoming a part of the norm in politics these days. And you have Taylor Swift and Yeezy right? campaigning for their folks, and they've got their celebrity endorsements on, and it's just it's such a different time and a different era.
Yeah, different time, different era, different reactions when it comes to that. Twitter was blowing up in both, but especially Kanye with a reaction there after that Oval Office meeting. Even a reaction from our own White House correspondent Jeff Bennett, who tweeted this. Kanye West comments today about African Americans and welfare were as objectively false as they were dangerous in perpetuating stereotypes that position low-income blacks as the face of America's welfare system. So to you, Rochelle, walk us through the facts behind these kinds of stereotypes and having it come from Kanye West and the impact that'll have.
Well, I think it's really unfortunate that we actually have Kanye West speaking on behalf of Black Americans. It is really frustrating for me that Donald Trump, for whatever reason, cannot seem to have a discussion with African Americans that represent true leadership and that are really going to get things done for the African American community. Now, I can give credit to Kanye West for attempting.
Where's that?
Here we go. I can give credit to him for attempting in his own unique way to try and bring forth issues that are important. Criminal justice, reforming the criminal justice, stop and frisk, not a good idea. Bringing manufacturing jobs, I can give him credit for that. However, any intelligent person can look at what happened in the Oval Office and say, this conversation was completely disjointed, it was scatterbrained at best, and it was very strange. And I think that the president was actually a little bit uncomfortable himself as Kanye talked about his daddy issues, and he seemed to sort of have look at Donald Trump as some sort of father figure. So I want to see leadership from the African American community come to the table. I know a lot of people don't want to sit down with Trump, but I think that we at least have to say, look, we went to the table, we brought forth the issues, we weren't pounding on the desk and using expletives to communicate with him. Yeah. We were really working to get something done, and if the president does not do anything about it, then we can hold him more accountable for what he's not done for the Black community.
Okay, well, we're talking about what he hasn't done or what he has, but also you've got to consider what he also says. So, Jay, I want to talk to you about that. I'm going to play some sound of the president last night in Ohio.
So Robert E. Lee was a great general. And Abraham Lincoln developed a phobia. He couldn't beat Robert E. Lee. He was going crazy. I don't know if you know this story, but Robert E. Lee was winning battle after battle after battle, And Abraham Lincoln came home, he said, I can't beat Robert E. Lee.
Jay, this was the day after that Oval Office meeting with Kayne West. What's the messaging here, especially when it comes to African-American voters?
Well, it is incredibly striking that the president, on the one hand, says that it's time for African-American voters to pay tribute to him and vote for him because he's done so much for them at the polls, and then at the same time, he always goes back to these dog whistles, not even dog whistles, praising the general of the Civil War and for the South, to say, like, he was a great general. And, you know, it really is, he shoots himself in the foot every time. I mean, he tries to make inroads, tries to make this case on why the economic case and why African-Americans should vote for him, but then tonally, you know, the entire sort of all of the racist ways in which he appeals, and this is the same that goes back to Charlottesville a few years ago. It really just, it's tonally, it's always just so disturbing, so outrageous to African American voters that there's just no way they're ever going to vote for him.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to Rochelle and the time that we have to the midterms, especially when it comes to this celebrity entertainer factor being weighed in. After Taylor Swift posted that she was putting her name back in those candidates, 24 hours after Vote.org said this, that there have been more than 51,000 new registrations. Historically, we know that voter turnout for young people has been low. So do you think that this will actually translate to votes when it comes to November in the midterms?
Absolutely. And I think that we also have to look at Donald Trump's approval rating. We know that it is below 40%. And we also know that people were very upset about what happened with Justice Kavanaugh. 58% of women disapprove of him being nominated and confirmed. 51% of the total U.S. population disapprove of that. So I think the numbers are already there. And look, Taylor Swift has just as much of a right to come out and say who she's going to support, just as much as Kanye has the right to go and sit down with the racist president. So when I hear Republicans kind of scorn and shun Taylor Swift now, because it seems they have this stereotype thinking that, oh, she's a white girl, she sings country music, so she has to be Republican. And now they don't want this celebrity to come out, but they'll praise Kanye West. And it's really interesting because they don't want celebrities involved in politics, but they put one in the Oval Office.
Oh, ladies, it's a very different time since the Dixie Chicks criticized President Bush back then, right? Very, very different time. We'll watch it in the weeks to come and after. Newton-Small and Rochelle Richie, to both of you, thank you. Great conversation. Still ahead, Melania Trump discusses the one